everyone, I'm Melanie Foxcroft from MF Consulting, and I'm back with Martin Clear from Tech Genius. Today we will be discussing customer experience and business automation and how does it fit in. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Melanie.
So Martin, with all of the systems that are available, can you explain to me what is available on the market and how does it work?
Sure, Melanie. Basically, I think there are a lot of task management systems out there. The trend is that you can subscribe to cloud-based things, and then you can use it to basically start tracking tasks. Now, tasks have got a lot to do with operations in your business, operational management. So in a really basic sense, what it gives us is the ability to basically assign tasks, to track the status of tasks. And the trick is that you want to do it in as easy as possible, and it must be as user-friendly as possible. So there are pretty much three big names out there. And what most of them do is they give visibility for you in three different views. So the one view would be basically pretty much like a spreadsheet where you can see all the tasks below each other. And then you've got this board type of view where you can drag and drop a task from, for example, a not completed to a completed box. So it's just basically moving it across. So a lot of people find that very user-friendly. It's sort of a Kanban kind of view. And then there's also a list kind of view, which is sort of a third kind of view. And then the other thing is Gantt charts. Now, when you start talking about Gantt charts, you're starting to talk about projects that needs project schedules, where you basically have tasks happening in a certain order, certain tasks are dependent on certain tasks, and your timelines are very important. So some of these things gives you a Gantt chart capability to do project management well, and some don't. So yeah, that's sort of the popular trend out there. A lot of people go for these cloud-based subscription things.
Well, Martin, that's all good and well, but what about if you've got like a niche business where it's very detail oriented, or where you require more information from your customers and that type of stuff? I'm just wondering how it's affecting customer experience.
Sure. So when we talk about customer experience, I mean, what we're basically referring to is to what extent is it a pleasant experience sort of doing business with your business. So, you know, a lot of these things that we're talking about, these things that helps you in operations and task management, that's pretty much behind the scenes. The customer will never look at these systems that you're using behind the scenes. So the impact that it has on your customer experience is pretty much, you know, people doing things on schedule, you know, keeping on track and whatever. And these things are quite important. But, you know, if I can take an example of an insurance company, for example, you know, if it's a 20-page form that the customer must fill in himself, a system where you allocate tasks to people is not going to make any difference to that customer experience of you having to fill in this tedious 20-page form. So it basically makes you, can help you to be productive and stay on track and, you know, have all your ducks in a row, but it's not going to make admin schlepp for the customer go away in any way.
So Martin, if that is the case, the systems that you do use, that you work with customers with, that they actually see and experience and all of that, because I understand what you're saying, that most of the systems that you use for project management is behind the scenes. But sometimes clients also want to see the progress, how it's going, what the different methods are that you will be using in future, and the planning and that type of stuff. Or maybe it's just me being a control freak, but you know, in planning and that type of stuff, sometimes customers would like to see it, or your clients would like to see it. What do you do in a case like that?
Yes, so I think you've got two choices, because these systems are typically not built to expose information to your clients. It's pretty much an internal use tools situation. So I think you've got two choices. Some of these systems allow you to add collaborators, but you know, if you assign a task to a collaborator, it's pretty much taking a person and making him part of the team. That's more useful when you outsource work to suppliers, or you know, outsource to freelancers or people providing services to you. that's still not involving the client really. So it doesn't give you, most of these systems don't give you out of the box functionality to expose things to clients. So that's where basically we come in. So what we need to do then is develop something custom that will take the relevant information, make it visible to the customer. So I think, you know, we're pretty much talking about client onboarding when we're talking about a long insurance form, for example. Now, these systems are not going to help to streamline your onboarding process in any way. I mean, you really have to think out of the box. If you've got a 20-page form that's difficult to fill in, you must try and think how you're going to make that simpler. So it's pretty much just putting yourselves in the customer's shoe, trying to think what's frustrating to them, how can you make the frustration go away, and how can you develop, for example, a website that maybe has a form that reduces the amount of questions, or, you know, where people have to fill in a lot of information, how can you make it simpler for them? Let's say, for example, you want to specify your vehicle, you know, instead of trying to figure out what vehicle you have, maybe only enter the VIN number, or, you know, give basically, if you have to be very detailed in terms of what model car you have, maybe display images of all the models out there, you know, or ask questions that are simple to understand, so you don't have to go, you know, phone the company who sold you the car, trying to figure out what model you have, for example. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
You did, but I still want to kind of like add on with that, or to that, because I want to ask you, if you have these different systems that you've already bought and paid for, can you actually integrate them to work with a business automated system so that everything works together?
Yes. So I want to refer back to the discussion we had about APIs. So it pretty much comes back to the application programming interface. So the API allows you to basically extract certain information out of the system. So even if we sort of create an add-on, you know, third-party application, or we create a website that communicates to these behind-the-scenes systems that you have, we can only expose information that we have access to. So when you're choosing these systems, it's very important to do your homework beforehand, because there's always quite a, you know, everybody, when you start using these behind-the-scenes systems, there's always training involved, you know, people have to get used to it. It's got quite a time impact, training people, and you have to change the way everybody's working. So, you know, it's quite a commitment that you make. So if you're going to go that route, it's worthwhile to have an in-detail look at what APIs are available for the systems you're considering, and does it actually expose all the information that you want to expose to your clients to improve the customer experience. If it doesn't actually give you that ability, then you have to really think about using an off-the-shelf tool and rather develop something that's custom built for your business, and that can expose everything that you want to expose to the customer.
What I also like, what we previously discussed, is the fact that if you have an integrated system, you don't have to work with your different models in silos, and everything can work seamlessly together. And I think that's very important when you actually consider business automation, because that's the whole purpose of it. Like you always used to say, it's to make sure that you fire yourself and make the process so much easier and streamlined. So, you know, can you explain to us how that process would work?
Sure. When you say how that process would work, you're referring to?
The integration with the APIs and that type of stuff, is it like a long period that you do things like that, or is it case to case, or, you know, is it a process that you're looking at, like building a house that can take 6 months to a year, or how quickly can something like that be turned around?
Sure. I think it all depends on the amount of information that you want to expose, the amount of web pages that will be involved. You know, are we talking about 1 page? Are we talking about 20 pages? And then basically because we have to develop everything, like you're referring to a house, you have to build everything from the ground up. So, you know, are you building a 1-bedroom flat, or are you building a 6-story mansion house? So it really all depends. But you know, although it's software development, if the API is very mature and you don't want to expose a lot of information, it could be a small project that takes anything from a few weeks. But if you're talking an involved system that's got much more, moving parts involved, and it's not just exposing information, but it's also adding information, etc. It can get more involved, for anything from a 3 months upwards project, more or less.
So Martin, if I have to sum this up, would I be right if I say that you need to do your homework before the time to ensure that when you make an investment, it's a good investment for the systems that work behind the scenes? But then if you want to make your customer experience more seamless, more enjoyable, you would rather look at a custom developed system that's automated.
Yes, you'll start off usually by putting systems in place behind the scenes. And when you eventually get to the point where you want to improve customer experience, like you say, you probably want to develop something custom. The last thing you want to do is discover at that point that you can't get the information from the system, and you have to go back to the drawing board and basically start from scratch, select another one, go through the training and the pain of the change again. So yes, you're 100% right where you say it really pays off to do your homework in detail and look at the API. And we're always willing to assist businesses with that if they need help in our brainstorming sessions, or just to do some research for them and just make sure that they're informed what can they do with the system in the future and what can't they do with it.
Thank you very much, Martin. I think it's very clear that there's not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution when it comes to behind the scenes or in front of the scenes. But I think with automation, you can take your business a lot further, especially if you want to improve your customer experience. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you next time.